here to do the talk today. And so how and why did we pick this, Alan? Why did we pick this theme? Mentoring. Who's your mentor? Tune in to discover. So we looked at what was going on in the media. We were looking at what was happening around us and with the political debates and with some of the issues, the whole political climate that's been surrounding all of us for quite a long time. And this being the Sunday before the election, we thought it'd be important to talk about how we come to the decisions we come to. Who are we listening to? There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise all the time, but particularly there's been a lot of noise. And we thought this would be a good topic to tune into. How do we know what to listen to? How do we make the decisions that are really important for ourselves and for the people around us? And this ongoing cry has been going on forever that we need change. I mean, they talk about change all the time, right? So, but how do we determine what change is best for us? So we decided that it was important and that we know that we should be looking to our leaders for inspiration. We should be looking to our leaders for guidance. We should be looking to leadership that allows a thought process that does the greatest good for all of us. And when you think about it, that actually fits really nicely with a lot of the 5 principles of unity. And in particular, so we can move to the next slide, we looked at the last 3. And the last 3 in particular talk about creating experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, we connect with God and bring out the good. That to do my best by living the truth, I know I make the difference. What we discovered is that there's probably about 20 different versions of these 5 principles. I was looking around on the internet. Even our own website has 5 different principles written out than the ones that are here. But the essence of them are the same. And so really focusing on, how do we get clear and who and what do we listen to? And then what do we do with it? That last one in all of them speaks to know your truth and then spread your truth. Get out there. So it's not like we're going to be monks sitting in a cave going inward. We need to go in and then go out. And so for us, that's what mentoring and mentorship is really all about. So the piece of history, though, do you want to do the history part?
Sure.
We started Googling the word mentor. So that was, and Terry does that all the time. I thought that'd be good.
Where do you think it came from? Ancient Greece. Homer's epic, The Odyssey. Odysseus was away from home, fighting and journeying for 20 years. During that time, his son, Telemachus, left as a babe in arms, grew up under the supervision of Mentor, an old and trusted friend. When the goddess Athena decided it was time to complete the education of young Telemachus, she visited him disguised as Mentor, and they set out together to learn about his father. So today we use the word mentor for anybody who's a positive guiding influence, usually in a younger person's life.
But we realize that it's more than just younger people, that we're constantly accessing mentors in our life. And as we mentor others, we are actually getting the gifts ourselves. And I know we have many stories that we can tell about instances where that's happened, and we'll get to those. What we really want to look at is this notion that to begin with, it's our inner leadership is source, our inner mentor. And I'm going to use the word leadership and mentorship interchangeably. In my work, I use it interchangeably all the time. When you think of who are our greatest leaders, they are people who truly can be mentored. They're open to others coming in, and they allow themselves to utilize their strengths where they're needed. And so great leaders are great mentors. And so those are, you'll hear us speaking interchangeably. So inner source is the ultimate place to start. It's our personal relationship. It's where we all sort of need to begin for that guidance when we seek for the strength that we need to make choices. Can you think of people who have helped you grow? Who has been catalyst for change in your life? I know for myself, if I start thinking about this, and he and I have been thinking for like a month now as we're getting ready to, what do we want to talk about? How are we going to say? I started thinking about all the mentors I've had, and I can go back to grammar school, high school. I can still think there's this nun, Sister Catherine, who I was a wild and crazy junior in high school, a hippie, and she really helped ground me. There were a few things that she said and did. She's this big nun. I was little. And I was tough. And she just said a few words to me one time, and to this day, I can think about her and remember her. I mean, again, it's not a huge thing, but there were little things that along the way got me to go inside and do what? Listen to my source, right? Other people can tap the source in us. So it's this beautiful symbiotic relationship that goes on with us individually, but us in community, which is why we love our church so much.
My karate teacher.
Your karate teacher.
That's right, I know karate. And 5 other Japanese words.
You know them in every language. I think as we were laughing and working on this, I realized Alan is probably the most powerful mentor I've had in many years. I think many of you know I'm wired without this stuff. I can be out there all the time, and he is really...
I slow her brain down.
He slows me down, and he helps me go inside. And I think for him, what do I do for you?
I don't know. Focus.
We're a team. Together we're a team. And it's a back and forth, a give and take. I think what's important is the more we allow ourselves time and reflection, the more we give ourselves permission to truly go inside and think about these things and remember, who was it that said what, or who gave me what, or who did I give something to, and now I see this beautiful change happening in their life. We see it in the little kids, right? We see it in the little ones all the time. The little things we don't even realize that what we say that can impact them. Quick story about my little nieces. The 5-year-old, when I was taking care of them a lot, I said, oh, we're going out, you gotta go potty. Well, I don't have to go potty. And I was like, well, that's a maintenance pee, right? Said it once on a trip. A year later, my niece calls me and she said, we're out on a trip with her husband and the 3 kids. And they was making a stop. And she said, all right, come on, we're all gonna go potty. And the 3-year-old said, I don't have to go potty. And the 5-year-old turns to her and says, it's a maintenance pee, Connie. And my niece's husband looked at her and said, that's gotta be your aunt. But the impression is, that we say things, we do things, and we don't even know how the ripple effect is gonna be down the road, the impact of it. So why is this important? It's important because we can have a greater impact if we really tune in to how and what those things that are inspiring us happen. If we tune in and we remember that what we say and what we do matters, that we're models, then we can really begin to focus on being more purposeful in what it is we say and what it is we do, and how we interact, and the gratitude that comes with when we get something as well as when we give something. So we have a couple personal stories. Alan's gonna go first.
Okay, so this story was happened many years ago when I had a foot reflexologist, a young girl working in my office, and she had a kind of personality where she knew a lot of stuff. And we were going downtown for some reason. We were on the subway, and the platform was very crowded. And so the train kind of pulled in. You're standing on the platform, and you're expecting the door to stop right where you are, and the door keeps going. So, so we had to turn and walk, and she was engrossed in conversation, telling me something. And so for some reason, I just glanced up to see where we were, and I saw a blind person about 15 feet ahead of us. And this is one of those, I don't know, grace or divinely inspired. Without thinking, I just said, excuse me, and I just ran up ahead and got to the blind person. I said, can I help you on the train? It's not something that I normally think about doing. It just happened. And so we got to the door. I said 90 degrees, turn left, and then there was a chair at 11 o'clock. So I helped him sit down, and I didn't think anything of it. And when I went back to sit down where she was crying. And I asked her what was going on, and she said, no, nothing, don't worry about it. And after she got composed, she said to me, I could have never done that. And for me, I didn't even think about it, because I guess I don't do it that often, but it was just something that I didn't realize the place where she was at, or even where I was at, that I could just say, go up and do that. So that was a powerful story for me, kind of a mentor thing.
As Alan and I talked about that scenario, this woman had kind of hard shell. You know, she was a tough cookie and had always sort of looked at Alan in a way that was, oh, you know, I know more than you, kind of a vibe going on. And this actually was a trigger, a turning point in her life. And she realized some really powerful things about herself and about him that she had never seen before. So this was a little bit of an awakening, you know, and that's what consciousness is all about, right? It's awakening, it's inside and outside, awakening and awareness. And so for her, that was a pivotal point.
And sometimes with these learnings, you don't always get to know what you're learning when you're learning it. It's many years later that, you know, it hits you that that's what was happening.
And the power of reflection, right? And that opportunity of going back and really thinking through, how did I get here? How did I come to be sitting where I'm sitting, thinking what I'm thinking, believing what I'm believing? You know, there's a root there for us. I have a little story I'll tell, and it was recent. So Janice and I went out for a walk on Wednesday. It was an important, difficult day in her life, and I committed in my crazy type A personality life. I said, I will reserve that day and we'll spend it together. And so part of the afternoon we went out to Walney Park, beautiful Walney Park, and it was a crisp, gorgeous, sunny fall day. You couldn't have asked for anything more perfect. And we wandered, and then she took me to a spot that she had discovered on a walk previously to the park. And we went and we sat there. I mean, you can see, it was incredible. The sun was streaming down, just the right amount of warmth. But we became aware right away that in the distance was 28, and it was heading toward rush hour. So the noise on 28 was crazy. I mean, the trucks and the cars and the booming and the banging. But we focused. We got really focused, and we chatted. We were talking, and then we got quiet, and we sat. And it didn't take long before I was aware of only birds. And there were actually these giant leaves that were falling into the stream, and I swear I could hear them hitting the water. The trucks and the cars were still going, but we both had gotten into this beautiful, contemplative place where we could be aware of some other things that we needed to be listening to. And for me, I felt like I got more that afternoon for myself than I thought I would get. I was doing this to be with Janice on a tough day, yet my heart, soul, and body needed the stillness that together we found sitting by this little brook. We didn't even hear the cars anymore. They were out of our consciousness, and we were tuned into something much more important. And so again, an example of where reflection, tuning in, being aware, being in community with other people, doing things with and for, and at the same time receiving for self, some amazing opportunities to grow. Where do we go next?
Our TED Talk.
So there's a TED Talk I use. You know, in my work, I do a lot of this work with leaders and coaching, and again, I find all the time that, almost all the time, that these concepts are interchangeable in my work, but yet I get so much out of my work because both of us are in service in the work that we do. But we both realize and are grateful for what comes back to us and giving to others. This little video, it's only about 6 minutes long, and if you've seen it, for me, I can see it 100 times and still love it. And where he talks about leadership, consider this notion of the leader as mentor.
How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school in a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, I remember the first time that I met you. And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, on my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad. And I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us and we'll take you home. We love you no matter what. And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I've ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shine-R-Emma, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shine-R-Emma. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, you need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you. And she said, I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life. He turned beet red. He wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face and you looked at my mom and my dad and you said, look at that, look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger. And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, you should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later. A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I've searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, you've been an incredibly important person in my life, was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you have it, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us. And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you change the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today.
You were going to say something.
So we want to encourage you to find rituals every day that reconnect, reconnect us to who we really are, our inner wisdom, our inner guidance, and so it becomes more you're able to remember what that feels like, and you can go back into that place more easily. It's like spiritual exercise.
And so for each of you, it might be different. I know for me, I do really well with moving meditations, being out in nature, sitting in nature, going for a walk. Others, like a quiet room and a darkened room, and maybe to light a candle is really sedating and calming. And so you got to find what works for you. But I know, and I have relived this time and again, and with the help of my mentor husband here, he helps me when I've got a lot on my plate and I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's that pulling back, pulling in, and getting quiet, and then it all makes sense. It's when we have trouble sorting out the noise, we're never going to stop the noise. Okay, there's always going to be traffic on 28. It's going to, and sometimes it gets even crazier, right? We just need to figure out how to quiet what we don't need to listen to, so that we can hear what we're really being called to do. And fear, when we're asked to step sort of out of our norm, and I think what I've seen in this election year is a lot of people who finally, out of frustration, have stepped out into that difficult political conversations just because they're frustrated, and finally I'm going to speak my truth. Well, that's good. If there's one good thing that's come for me, is watching people finally come out of the closet and having some real conversations, as painful as they might be, because we're not always going to agree. We're coming at it with a different lens, a different focus. But if we hold it in and don't share and don't have the conversations, then we're never going to take that opportunity to potentially influence someone in a direction of seeing something in a different light or a different way. So it's our own internal conversations and the ability to reflect and to step into potentially some new ground when we feel Source saying, yeah, reach out, have that conversation, say that. So, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.